Senior Living Today, brought to you by these fine sponsors: Wires Inc. and First Class Realty Triangle East.
Hello everyone, and welcome to Senior Living Today. Can you believe a week has already gone by? And the thing about doing a live show, first we have a great show lined up for you tonight, but you can tell normally I don't have a piece of paper handed to me, but I just did. I need to pass something on to you. I don't know if you're familiar with the K-Files. It's a program that's helping to solve unsolved crimes on the local level. And it airs every Thursday morning, 8 a.m., and the host is Lyndall Kay. Wonderful, wonderful program. Well, we all like a fundraiser. Well, there's going to be a fundraiser this Saturday, May 1st, at Don Bullock Chevrolet to assist this program, the K-Files. It's going to be from 12 to 4, Saturday, May 1st. Now, the nice thing about all this, free prizes, giveaways, raffles for the kids, for the family. So come out again, Don Bullock Chevrolet, right here locally, Rocky Mount, North Carolina, from 12 to 4. Now, we're going to get right into Senior Living Today. Cheryl, you've got something to tell us as far as our sponsors, and take it away.
Yes, sir. Sponsors this week: First Class Real Estate Triangle East. Brett Hill is the primary broker there. Very knowledgeable group of folks about the market and the process of buying and selling. So please give them a call. And also Brian West, Wires Inc. here in town, and I love those guys because, like I tell you every week, if you got an $80,000 pickup truck or like me an $800 pickup truck, you still need to have a good bed liner in it, and those are the guys to talk to about doing that for you. And we appreciate them being a sponsor for us each week. And this evening, man, I am excited. We have Dr. Richard Michael with us this evening. And we're going to kind of get into some details on his, what I call, newest venture that he is working in the world of medicine, which I see as being a great, great thing for seniors to participate in. I see that this is kind of the future of medicine, I think, in a lot of ways. But before we really get into that, Dr. Michael, do you mind giving us a little bit of your background and tell us how you landed in Rocky Mount?
Sure, I'd be happy to, Cheryl. I think it was a God thing. It was the last place we kind of looked, and we actually, when we went around and interviewed, I knew we wanted to be in the Southeast. We had family. My wife and I have family in the Southeast, and we knew we wanted to settle somewhere here. But it was strange. We actually interviewed in Cary. Right. Now, at that time, Cary was a very small place. It was only about 20,000 people. Wow. But we got kind of a cold reception there, and I remember talking to some physicians I knew from church when I was in medical school at Duke, and I got a hold of them, and they practiced in Durham, and they said, well, they didn't know much about Cary, but their attorney lived there. Give him a holler. So I did. One thing led to another. He said, have you ever considered Rocky Mount? And I said, well, I have a brother who just started working at one of the banks there. And I said, he seems to like it there. So I gave my brother a call. He said, well, being single, but if I was married, now I would love Rocky Mount. So it got us looking, and one thing led to another. We prayed a lot about it, and we just, there were just doors that were opening, and we felt very welcomed here. So God just put us here, and we've been here for over 35 years.
Wow.
And it's been a quick 35 years too, hasn't it, Doc?
In a lot of ways it has.
Yes, it is. It's amazing how quickly those days fly by. Okay, let's talk a little bit about medicine. For those in the senior seasoned citizens realm, what do you see as the biggest concerns or key concerns in health issues?
Well, I think, and I'm in that category now, by the way, so I'm speaking to myself.
You're not by yourself, Dr.
Okay, so, one of the challenges, one of the many challenges that we as seniors face, and that your audience faces, is that you know, we generally are starting to accumulate mileage on our bodies in different ways. And you know, oxidative stress, we call it oxidative stress in medical terms, but it leads to some problems. And you know, whether it's orthopedic challenges, challenges with our weight, challenges with our change in our body composition where we're losing muscle mass. And folks, when you lose muscle mass and you lose coordination skills, what happens? You can fall.
Yes.
And one of the leading causes of death in seniors, not just disability, but death itself, are falls. You know, during this 30-minute presentation we're having this evening, one person across the United States, one senior, will actually have died because of a fall.
Unheard of.
In 30 minutes. So, you know, this is a real problem. But, you know, there are other ones too. You know, and a lot of these things are kind of accumulating. And, you know, it's very rare that a senior only has one problem, chronic problem. They usually kind of pile up, and they can add up on themselves. You know, you take challenges with weight, for instance, something we see quite often. And, you know, weight in of itself carries excessive risk for dying from a number of different disorders. And, you know, you can develop diabetes just because I'm carrying too much weight. There are different things that go on. And, you know, so there are multiple challenges. And, you know, honestly, if you gave me one ball to juggle right now, I might not make a fool of myself. But you give me a second ball, uh-oh.
Right.
And you throw a third one in there, they're all going on the floor. And you know, this is true for our seniors, because when you go in to see the doctor and you've got a bunch of balls you're juggling, and you go in there and you're waiting to hear the words from your doc, how you're doing, you know, it's hard to juggle multiple balls. It really is. And for the physician also, if we're trying to do a number of different things in our visit with you, if we don't have the time to do that, I think we're both going to feel a little shortchanged, you know? And the typical doc encounter, honestly, you know, your folks, your viewers will have to kind of decide for yourself. But I challenge you, because I've spent over 35 years in the traditional model.
Right.
You know, the traditional model, you may wait longer to see your doctor than you do actually in the room with your doctor. And you know, when we're dealing with things that could be lifestyle mitigated, what I mean by that is, you know, it's not always a prescription. Now, we know how to write prescriptions, and thank the Lord we have a number of great medicines we can use. But you know, one of the great things I love in my current practice is really having the time to tease out and work with you and say, well, we have prescriptions to do this, but we also have lifestyle. And which do you prefer? You want to do maybe a little bit of both at the same time, with the idea that maybe we can get off of some of these medicines eventually. But you know, it's a lot easier for me to write the prescription and say, take this, than it is to go into depth and say, let's talk about diet. Let's get the nuances in that, so that when you leave, you don't have 100 other questions, but we didn't have the time to go into those.
Right.
And then the chance of me seeing you is 3 months from now. What am I going to do in the next 3 months? How am I going to handle that? So honestly, chronic diseases, folks, are difficult to manage. Well, you need the time to do it. And quite honestly, there's a lot of challenges there. You know, we think about cognition, you know, our minds. And you know, it's a tough thing when the body is working, but the mind is not. And you know, I have different insights and capabilities of not only writing a prescription, but I think it's far more on the non-prescription side that we can gain a lot of benefit in dealing with cognitive decline, which is, you know, it's scary for all of us.
It is.
Yes.
You know, it really is.
Dr. Richard, had one question that I'll jump in, because Cheryl's got this lined out, but a call came in, and we thank you to our seniors that call our office to invite questions. And here's the question, Dr. Richard. We have people sitting on the couch, that are saying, you know, I've got Medicare, but I just don't know if I can go to the doctor, if I can afford it. Doc, can you address the fear factor of coming to see the doctor? Right. I hear this in seniors, not daily, folks, but you're sitting on your couch out there right now, and some of you know exactly what I'm saying from the standpoint of, well, I want to go to the doctor, I feel like something's right, but I just don't know. Will Medicare take care of me? Will he accept Medicare? Doc, can you take just a minute and kind of just address that fear?
Sure. You know, I think access to medical care is behind part of what you're bringing up here.
Yes, sir.
And so there's access issues. Honestly, it's one of the things that anybody that's relocating, you know, you really have to take a look at that and say, where I'm thinking about moving to, are there doctors there that are actually going to accept Medicare? Because in some places, it's tough to find practices that are still accepting Medicare, and it might be weeks or maybe even months before you can get in to be seen. So that's an extremely important issue. And you know, in our practice now, one of the things that I love doing is that we don't overbook. Okay, and so in my concierge practice now, we're not dealing with booked appointments. I mean, we literally saw a gentleman this morning who was having significant issues. He called in this morning. We saw him within an hour of his call, and we dealt with his issues. You know, same-day appointments are unheard of in a traditional practice. Now, you might see an extender. You know, our medical system, our traditional medical system, could not exist without extenders. No. It really couldn't. At the same time, you know, you might like to see your doctor if you think something's wrong, but and then somebody else has to learn all about your situation. Right. What's the context? You know, Scripture is all context-driven. Well, medical care is no different. It's context-driven. And knowing about that patient, you're 5 steps ahead in your analysis of what's going on. And when that has to be reinvented each visit, it's a little bit tougher. And so, you know, but access is incredibly important. You know, and one of the things, and you know, it is a little scary when you go to the doctor, because you may be thinking, you know, I could have done better on this. I could have been done. Oh, and I bet they're going to ask about X, Y, and Z. I wonder how my lab work turned out. Uh-oh. And you know, folks, look, in my practice, we just thrive on, we're going to work with you, and I'm known to give homework.
Excellent.
I'm known to give homework. I like to grade everything, and I annotate your labs. A+ here, great job here, B+ here, let's go do some homework. And it's up to you. You know, we work as a partnership, as a team. And I think, you know, that's where the old style medicine, you know, the Marcus Welby, that was where we knew each other as patient and doctor.
Yes. Right.
And we had that respect. And if you said, Doc, I'm not ready for this quite yet, I'd say, okay, we'll come back. How about this or that? How can we work on those things? So, you know, I think the fear is partially because, you know, we don't have enough time also. You know, if I don't have enough time to explain, Doc, I couldn't do this because of some circumstances in my life.
Yes.
Right. Well, if you don't have time to get to that, then I'm judging you, and I don't know the circumstances of why you didn't.
You do not. Right.
You weren't able to follow through. But we'll work around that, and we'll work through it. So, you know, access is important, just mutual respect, and time to tease out those areas that need teasing out.
Outstanding. Well, we've got about a minute before break, so if you have a quick question beforehand.
Here, it's not a question as much as this is what I want to accomplish when we come back.
Outstanding, bro. Yes, sir.
You mentioned, you talked a little bit about prescriptions, and we talked a little bit about lifestyle, and also a little bit about teaching, and I'd really like to get into a little more detail on those 3 things when we come back, and just see, you know, what your take is on those things now.
Absolutely.
I hope you're seeing at home how in involved in how deep we dive in at Senior Living Today. It's every aspect of senior life. And it's such just gratitude of you picking up the phone, calling our office, and involving us with a question. Could you ask this? Could you ask that? And to the guests that we have, and it's such a different facet. But as Cheryl said, Dr. Richard will be back shortly, right after this short break. Stay tuned. Gosh, is there some great information coming your way. Senior Living Today, we'll be right back.
Senior Living Today, brought to you by these fine sponsors: Wires Inc. and First Class Realty Triangle East.
Well, welcome back to Senior Living Today, the quickest 30 minutes of the day, I promise you. And we're going to jump right back into it. You remember what Mr. Braswell, Cheryl was saying. He was going to ask Dr. Richard Michael a couple of questions.
Yes, sir. You were talking a little bit about prescriptions. Just kind of expound on that a little bit, your take on prescriptions in the overall scene.
You know, and this is one of the difficult areas. As you get more complex medical problems, traditionally, you know, we're trained to do prescriptions. Mm-hmm. And, you know, thank goodness we have that in our tool set. And one of the issues with prescriptions, of course, can be cost. Mm-hmm. And it gets more complex. You know, I talked with a patient today. Using a pill box, something as easy as a pill box, mm-hmm. can help you in terms of making sure that you're taking all your medicines every day. Now, I will say this. I was not always compliant with my medicines until I started using a pill box. And the big thing for me was, that pill box means I'm getting older. I don't like that.
Right.
That's for old people, right? Well, no, folks, let's get over that pride and let's get to where, you know, if I'm taking my medicines regularly, then they have a chance to work. Mm-hmm. And so, you know, it's like, you know, we could think about getting in a canoe, and you've got a dock across the river, and you want to get to that dock, and you can see it from your side. But if we're both in the canoe, mm-hmm. I'm on the right side, you're on the left. If I'm the only one pulling the paddle, we're going to go in circles.
Yes.
So you've got to pull too, and we'll work together. And I think this is where, in the past year or two, my eyes have become more open to non-prescription things. Mm-hmm. And I think what we do is, I use the right oar, maybe the prescriptions, mm-hmm. and we're open to using the left oar, which is non-prescriptions. And you know, again, that takes time to explain that, mm-hmm. to utilize that. But I think if we're trying to get to a certain goal, a certain destination, I think that can be done. And it, you know, quite honestly, folks, if you're pre-diabetic, which means you're not diabetic, but you're not normal, your blood sugars are challenged, mm-hmm. honestly, there is a medicine that is approved for pre-diabetes to actually prevent it from going into diabetes. Mm-hmm. But do you know lifestyle trumps that in spades if you do the lifestyle? So it is far and away better than even using a medication in that respect.
Interesting.
So you know, point counterpoint, the benefit of pharmaceuticals, the challenge of taking them as a patient, and then realizing that we can do some things hand in hand given time to explain mm-hmm. those things.
Mm-hmm. An ounce of prevention, pound of cure.
Yeah. There's a lot behind that. And you know, some of the things that have come out recently, you know, as seniors, we are underrepresented in medical studies a lot of times.
I agree. Yes, sir.
And you try to find studies that are done on people in their 70s, the amount of people in those medical studies diminishes as they age. Yeah. And there was recently a study done, came out, thousands and thousands of patients, but you had to be older to be in the study, which was novel. And what they were looking at is this. Is treating my cholesterol, if I have bad cholesterol, but I'm 70, I'm 75, is the horse out of the barn and off the property, and I'm just blowing smoke to treat it?
Right.
And do you know that they found that you're not too old to treat it and get benefit from being treated? So, it's quite interesting that, again, there's benefits to prevention, and folks, really, it doesn't really matter how old you are. Sure. Wearing a seatbelt, not smoking. My practice is here. I'm so excited. I've had 2 people that they were long-time smokers, and they've both quit.
You're here.
They have both quit. I'm so proud of them. But we look at those things. We look at exercise. We look at exercise and how it can help us to prevent falling. We talked about that earlier. So there are some prevention things that we can do that are simply amazing. I mean, some of the things that I've been incorporating for instance, in terms of diet. I'm not a trained dietitian. Right. I'm going to put a plug in. If you're my patient in the MD VIP practice, 2 months from now, mid-June, we're having a 3-hour Q&A session. I've absconded with a Duke dietitian, and she's going to join me, and we're going to have a lot of fun teaching. We're not going to be 20 minutes in, everybody's falling asleep. This is going to be interactive. It's for my patients, and they can bring a couple of guests. But I'm excited because doing this practice, I'm expanding my skill set.
Right.
I've got one fellow right now, he's lost 60 pounds. I've taken him off of his blood pressure medicines. And we did it through lifestyle.
Right.
And we talked of how to do it, and he went with it, and he's amazing benefits. So
now, okay,
yes, sir.
You say, we talked about doing these things. So if you're going to start using the lifestyle with a patient, you sit down initially and maybe come up with the blueprint of here's the path we're going to follow, and how often would you check in with this person or have them?
Well, great question. For chronic diseases, basically what we do is we individualize. It's not going to be a cookie cutter,
right,
because you're an individual patient. VIP, by the way, you may be wondering, it stands for value in prevention. Value in prevention. So that's part of what we do. In fact, it's a huge part.
Right.
We do an executive exam once a year. Now, we will uncover things, and I will tell you, I've uncovered people with diabetes, people with thyroid dysfunction, people who are deficient in vitamin D. By the way, with Mr. COVID out there, vitamin D is very important. So we've uncovered a number of different things. We've uncovered plaque in arteries that you would never guess was there. So we're constantly doing prevention, but we would individualize, Cheryl. So if you had a need for weight management, and what we would do is pretty much, I'm checking in 6 weeks, 8 weeks in. I don't want you to feel like a Lone Ranger wandering aimlessly, and listen, the great thing about my practice, if you call and say, I'm stuck, I don't know, my appointment's not for 2 months, but is there any chance I could see you this week? You betcha. Because I'd rather you have knowledge and know what you need to do rather than that feeling of kind of helpless.
Sure.
Right. Let's talk just a second about the term concierge medicine and how it relates to the MD VIP.
Sure. Well, there are so many forms of concierge medicine out there, just many, many forms. Ours in particular, the company I've aligned with, affiliated with, has been around for 20 years. And so they've been through a number of things. The focal point of our practice is the executive level exam.
Right.
You're basically getting an executive level exam. We try to do that very early. Once you sign up for a year with me, we try to do that early on rather than late, because I want to find out if you have some issues.
Right.
And if you do, we're going to deal with them early on, not wait till the end of your 12 months. So we do that, and it's very, very intentional. And you know, it's like red flashing lights on your dashboard. We do so many tests. I had to literally study these tests that are part of the norm of this executive program, because quite honestly, they weren't tests that we ordered previously.
Really?
But it's amazing the things we've picked up. And now I'm seeing people a year out, because they've been with me a year. I just was reviewing, before I came down here, a lady who's going to see me next week. It's amazing the things that have changed in a positive direction for her. She's going to be stoked when she sees this. And of course, it helped. I'm excited.
Dr. Richard Michael, we've got to get you back.
Yes.
The 30 minutes, gosh, I could sit here another hour. But Doc, in closing, we'll have three things. How do we get in touch with you, just in case?
Okay.
How do we get in touch?
All right. Bridget is my office manager, and I'll give you the number. It's 252-451-7043. You can see it on the screen there. Please give us a call. Most of you probably don't know me, but we have what's called a meet and greet. And if you're interested in learning more about our practice and what it might mean for you, you can just say, I'd like to do a meet and greet with Dr. Michael, and we'll arrange that. We'd be more than happy to.
Well, Dr. Michael, it has been fabulous. I thank our viewers for tuning in. Don't forget, Don Bullock Chevrolet, Saturday, May 1st, from 12 to 4, a fundraiser for the K-Files. Cheryl, who do we have coming on for next week?
Next week, we have the organization from Wilson that will be here called Whirly Dogs.
Sounds fun.
Yep. Next Tuesday night at 6 p.m. I've talked with them, looked at a couple of videos they have of what they're doing. They're working with individuals, you know, who have some challenges, and helping them to get into the working mainstream and you know, be productive, which I think is a fabulous thing for anybody.
Then you have to tune in next
Yes.
week at that same time. And don't forget, from Dr. Michael, Cheryl Browswell, myself, senior living is a wonderful part of life. We'll see you next Tuesday, 6 o'clock. Look forward to it. Have a blessed evening, and thank you.
Senior Living Today, brought to you by these fine sponsors: Wires Inc. and First Class Realty Triangle East.